Welcome to Planet Marzipan Podcast,
your fish and Marillion podcast,
where we talk about all things in the planet of Marillion and fish. I'm Meza, and here's my mate,
Craig Houston.
Hello and welcome to Planet Marzipan Podcast. I'm Meza and I'm here with my good friend
Faye Houston.
Yay! Faye's back!
Hey,
Back in a row.
Just for Barnes. To welcome him back from Mexico.
We have returning guests. We're welcoming back Tim Sidwell
Yay!
Hello, everyone.
Legend.
and Mike Barton.
Hello,
Another
good
legend.
And we have a Planet Marzipan.
Mersey.
Planet Marzipan. Planet Mezapan. Welcome, Nathan Page.
Hello.
Hi, Nathan. Welcome.
Thank you.
Before we do any of the rest of this stuff, we get to ask you the golden question, Nathan. How did you first become aware of Marillion and fish?
Okay, so for me, it will have been December 2005, January 2006. I was on a train to Birmingham, and my stepdad Kieran had bought that issue of Classic Rock, and it had got a Queen tribute CD on it, and I really wanted to listen to it. And he went, "Yeah, no, listen to this instead," and played me Misplaced Childhood start to finish. And then I think that Christmas I must have got an iPod, and on the iPod was Misplaced Childhood and Marbles. I confess now I thought Marbles was absolutely rubbish, whereas Misplaced was genius. Fast forward roughly a year later, Marillion Weekend 2007. Mum and Kieran got married. That was their honeymoon. Unfortunately, that was their weekend to have the kids. So we got taken with them, and I fell in love.
Was that the weekend were you on stage that weekend? Or was that
No, that was 2009.
Yeah, that was
So
9.
2 years later.
okay?
You still look 6.
Yes.
I remember filming that, Nathan. I
I
must have
was very nervous.
the footage still somewhere on a
Oh
tape.
yes, yes,
secreted away
please,
somewhere.
yes,
Yeah.
please. David, yes. So that weekend was the first time you'd seen Marillion as well.
Yeah. 2nd to the 5th of February 2007.
Yeah, which we're going to talk about now because it's the lead up to the Somewhere Else album. As per usual, we'll start with a Wikipedia entry. Somewhere Else is the 14th studio album by British neo-prog band Marillion. It was released on the band's own label Intact Records in the UK on the 9th of April 2007. Produced by Michael Hunter, the album was recorded during 2006 at the Racket Club in Buckinghamshire, except the track Faith, written during the Marble sessions and recorded the previous year. The album title was initially supposed to be 14, and the cover artwork was prepared to match it. However, the name altered and the new artwork became necessary. The final variant of the cover, featuring a tower viewer, also known as a coin-operated binoculars, was designed by Carl Glover. It is quite similar to that of Weather Report's compilation album Forecast Tomorrow. The band had been aware of this, but since it occurred by accident, they decided not to change anything. And the other thing that we do at the beginning of these podcasts when we review an album is ask, Faye, how old were you when this album came out?
Oh, well, this one, it came out in start of 2007, so I was 34.
Oh, ouch.
There you go.
Baby.
Come on,
Yeah.
Nathan was practically an embryo at the time.
Yes.
Well, the first 5 songs that Nathan will have seen live were all from the as then unreleased Somewhere Else album. And Tim, this was your sort of first filming job for the band. Let's talk a little bit about how that came about.
Well, yeah, the album was on its way. And I think, well, they wanted to play it to premiere it to the fans, but also they needed some promotional footage for it as well. You know, the early days of needing content. And so that was the first songs they played, wasn't it, on the Friday night?
Yeah.
And I remember you guys talking about whether or not they came back on and played. Was it Most Toys and something else at the end of was it The Wound? They replayed
Yeah, I think it's
the
The Wound.
songs.
Yeah.
And I can confirm they did because I remember it. They wanted to come back and do those tracks, so we had a few more camera angles for what was to come for the promotional.
Well, with in the prep for this episode, I've revisited the "Thank You Whoever You Are" DVD single, which has the Most Toys live clip on that you prepared, and H is wearing two different jackets in that, so that kind of bears out what you've said there.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, something at the beginning of the night, and then a sweatier version at the end.
That's right. Yeah. So yeah, they definitely came back on and played a couple of songs again. So yeah,
that's it. We did talk about this in the previous episode, but the 5 songs that they premiered were The Other Half, Last Century for Man, Thank You Whoever You Are, Most Toys, and The Wound. And then the encore was Most Toys and The Other Half, actually, but yeah.
Okay.
But those of you who've got the making of album, Mr. Taurus.
Well, speaking of Mr. Taurus,
Is he there?
we have just joining us
You
now,
know, as if by magic,
just about to talk about him.
James Levey appears on screen.
Hello.
A living
Hello,
legend.
James. Are you all right?
Yeah, sorry, I'm on a new work laptop, so I had to download everything and do all the necessary.
Well, we're mid-record. We're just doing the intro. Do you want to? I was just about to read from your excellent sleeve notes of Mr. Taurus about the EP, but would you like to tell us about that?
Yeah, as far as I know, and somebody might correct me, but as far as I understood, when the band were coming off Marbles in 2005, or the beginning of 2005, there was a sort of talk around they didn't want to let the peak that they'd got up to on Marbles, because Marbles was as successful and You're Gone had done really well in the charts and the other singles. And they didn't want to have a break between that and the next album, which potentially could be the next 2 years. And they had 5 songs in different sort of states of completeness. So I think the idea behind it was to record an EP and get an EP out by the end of the year to coincide with the Not Quite Christmas tour. So to keep the band's name and everything sort of presence out there before they disappear into the recording studio or the Racket Club in 2006 and record the album.
Okay. What tracks were there?
There were, if I remember correctly, I'm looking at my notes, Circular Ride, State of Mind, Real Tears for Sale, Say the Word, and Faith.
Yeah, which would have been fantastic. So do they exist in different finished versions?
Yeah, so on Mr. Taurus, for example, the versions, I think, of Circular Ride on disc 2, I haven't really had much homework today, is actually the backing track to the EP.
Right, okay.
So that was the sort of, before they overdubbed and everything. And as far as I've heard, they pretty much were mixed and ready to go. Say the Word was dropped in about September. So the EP was going to be Circular Ride, Real Tears for Sale, Faith, and State of Mind. And then they decided to actually, no, we don't want to go with that. We'll start recording an album.
I think what we should do, every time we now mention Say the Word, for Lucy, we should actually call it Say the Fucking Word, because that's how she's always said it. Always said it.
She's never been a fan of it.
I know, I shouldn't say it. Yeah, it's been one of those things. So Say the Fucking Word.
So it could have been really different, couldn't it? I mean, this isn't the first time we've talked about the band having a plan of an EP between albums, is it? It's come up a couple of times, certainly. I mean, H has brought it up this year as a possibility that was floated around. I really wish they'd do it. I wish they'd do it between albums.
I think there was also I think Lucy's had a plan of releasing a number of EPs over a year, which I think was what was became CD2 of Happiness is the Road.
Right. I mean, certainly, just again, sorry to reference back to other episodes, but when we talked to Lucy about the Peter Gabriel album last year coming out one track every new moon, she really wasn't a fan of that. I have to say, I loved it, but she wasn't a fan of it. So that's kind of the origins of the album. Then they did the Not Quite Christmas tour. Then in January 2006, they went back into the Racket Club to start recording the album proper. Is that correct, James?
Yeah.
And this was the first time at that point where they decided not to do a pre-order campaign.
Yeah, it hindered the album, I think.
That went well, didn't it? Fans liked to pre-order. I think we got the start of some negativity about the album.
Yeah, because I mean, there was a kind of pre-order campaign, if I remember right, was it Townsend Records, where you're ordering from them and you got
something else.
Something else.
It's the 3-track DVD, yeah.
So they did that so they could actually get a chart position and take it out of the hands of Racket. So they didn't have to do the packing and everything on that one. I think people were disappointed that they couldn't be involved, where we had been with Anarachnophobia and we had been especially with Marbles. And at least they were being honest with the fact of we didn't need the money. We had enough money to record the album. We could move it forward. Didn't want to come up with a begging cup when they didn't need it.
And there was the initial single from the album was "See It Like a Baby," wasn't it? It was a
download only single.
Yeah.
It only got into the problem that they'd had. It sounded like a great idea. Yeah, there was a promo CD of it. Yeah,
this is why it never charted, because all the promo CDs are in our collections. Yeah.
It was never released as a commercial thing. But there'd been a change because when Marbles on the Road came out as a download single, they'd released The Damage Live, and it actually
got the promo for that as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that got to number 2 in what was then the exclusive download chart. It was only kept off number 1 by U2's Elevation. So when they did the same thing with Say It Like a Baby, the chart rules had changed. So the digitals were in with normal CDs and stuff like that. So they all counted. So yeah, with no physical to go with it, it only got into the 40s. So.
Am I right in thinking that the band did a competition for people to make a video for Say It Like a Baby?
That was whatever is wrong with you.
That was what I was wrong with.
Oh, that's completely wrong. That's way off, isn't it? That you peaked too early there.
You got ahead with the the album.
There must have been something else around "See It Like a Baby" then, wasn't there?
No, there was just that. And then the single came out after the album came out, which is "Thank You Whoever You Are" and everybody's favourite "Most Toys."
So they did play the 5 tracks at Port Zealand, but also, prior to release, they recorded a session for Bob Harris at Maida Vale. And I was lucky enough to be there. My good friend, the late departed Gary Ashton, won 2 tickets, and he gave me a ticket, and we went down to Maida Vale in April the 2nd to see the band do, I think, a 9-track set, which was a mix of some new tracks and some older tracks. And it was a lovely day, and Gary was a lovely guy. And it was nice to meet, Bob Harris was there chatting with fans, and the band seemed quite relaxed. But I have to say, it wasn't the first time we'd heard these tracks, was it, Craig?
Well, first off, Faith had been played at the convention in 2005 in its original version. And
before that.
Was it before that as well? Come on then.
Played in 2003, where they debuted some of the Marbles tracks.
Yeah.
Was it?
When it wasn't Ocean Cloud either. It was Pacific Row, wasn't it?
Pacific Row, yes.
Yeah,
was that on that set as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, because Faith pretty much, as you heard it on the I think, because it was on the B-side of You're Gone, wasn't it? I think it was pretty much written and complete up to the point then during Marbles. In fact, the first track on the first disc of the Marble session was Pete playing what became Faith.
Right.
Oh, play. In fact, if we keep going, it's probably going all the way back to Fugazi now. If we keep at this rate.
Before that Bob Harris show, they did that session at the Racket Club, didn't they?
Yeah,
they did.
Which we filmed.
You filmed, didn't you?
Yeah. And that was a warm up for the Bob Harris Maida Vale session, wasn't it?
I presume it's on the Space as we speak, isn't it?
Yes, I believe it is. Yeah.
But it's also jumping ahead slightly, on Somewhere in London as well. But we'll talk about that another time. But I think what I was getting at, Craig, is the band put out a promo download of the album, which had Mark Kelly talking through it, saying, "You're listening to the new Marillion album. Please do not distribute it," something to that effect.
Don't put it on internet.
Yes, during the tracks. And we were all encouraged not to try and get hold of this.
But everybody had it.
So, of course, we did the opposite to that and got hold of it. And when I went to the Bob Harris thing, I stood right in front of H, singing the lyrics to Somewhere Else. And he promptly kicked a bottle of lager over on me. Now, I don't know if that was deliberate or not. Don't know if it was deliberate.
In fact, was I not standing next to you in one of the gigs when they were playing one of the Somewhere Else songs at the start, and I was standing whispering in your ear, "You're listening to a dodgy copy. You don't distribute this to the internet." Yeah.
But yes, it's
and then there was the listening parties as well.
There were two. Were there two? There's a London one and a Glasgow one.
I was out. Then a Barton said there was an Oxford one at the Zoo.
Was an Oxford one, right? Okay.
But we went up to Glasgow for that, and we had DJ Dobby on the decks.
Yeah.
So Lucy basically nailed his foot to the floor and watch this, play this. It was me, you, Mark Kennedy, and Dobby went up for that.
Yeah.
To listen to a CD and drive back like 3 hours in the car, like 2 o'clock in the morning.
It's dedication for you, isn't it?
Madness.
They also had a listening party in New York.
Did they?
They did.
Did you go?
No, okay. I didn't.
It was only 2.
Yes, exactly. And I think if you look on YouTube, I think there's some footage of Pete and Rothers playing, and I think it's Pete singing Easter, which is eclectic.
Wow.
Okay. Another version of Easter.
You never have too many versions of Easter, Mike. You know that.
No, true.
So the album was released on the 9th of April. Before we go into detail, any particular sort of overview, initial reactions to the album?
It was an album of 2 halves.
Okay.
It didn't hit straight away. The title track really did, but the rest of it didn't really hit straight away.
It was a weird one for me because it was the first album that I was really kind of embedded in the Marillion machine, and I'd heard a lot of the songs sort of out of kilter, you know?
Yeah.
So the experience of sort of putting on a Marillion CD and listening to it from start to finish, I kind of knew the songs anyway. And I actually listened to it again today for the first time in years, as a start to finish listening experience. And I can't honestly remember having done that before.
Really?
Wow.
I think for me, I think potentially it struggled for not being Marbles. It is definitely a reaction to Marbles.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was, I think compared to Marbles, as Nathan said, it was different to Marbles, and I think it was more accessible than Marbles. Even though Marbles is my favourite Marillion album, I thought there's more accessibility on the songs, and they're less dense.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. When I first heard it, I was disappointed. Apart from the other half, which I really, really like, and the title track, which I absolutely love, the rest of it I found fair to middling until I saw the songs live, and it was a bit of almost a Brave thing where I didn't get some of them until I saw them live, and even then, I still find the album a little flat sometimes, and I think there's some of it where you can see, if you compare some of these songs then and some of the more recent Mike Hunter ones, you can see where the jams come in, and they seem to spend longer on a song with a particular riff on Somewhere Else than they do, say, on Fear or on An Hour Before It's Dark, where if there's a 2 or 3 minute piece where they could expand that to a full song, whereas more recently that 2 or 3 minute piece would only be about a minute and a half as part of a bigger suite.
I like it. I liked it from the off. I think because it's not what we get now with the big epics. It's a middle period Marillion album, with songs. It's got peaks and troughs. Yeah. We'll talk about individual tracks shortly, but there must be, I don't know, 4 or 5 tracks on here that I love live. I love seeing live.
Yeah.
And the tour, when we talk about the tour was probably the most relaxed I'd seen the band in years. I distinctly remember a Rock City gig where we were you were there, Nathan, we were shouting out things and they'd play like 2-3 bars of it and then stop and play something else.
And they also at that gig, we shouted out uninvited guests, and H Clan played the first few bars, and we just carried on, and the band just kind of went whatever.
Yeah, it was they were really relaxed.
I was at that gig as well, and guess who? I had hold my hand up. I got most toys played.
Hey, that round of applause from me. Round of applause from me. Not everybody on the screen's clapping, James, but we are. Me and Nathan are clapping. There's nothing wrong with most toys.
Well, I think I can understand. And talking to Mike, he said to me that Somewhere Else was meant to be more of a live sounding album.
Yeah,
it was done as an in the room kind of thing, wasn't it?
Definitely works better live.
And I think it is. I think it is a more live sounding album.
The drum sounds fantastic on it.
Yeah. Okay, so that's our initial thoughts. Shall we get in track by track?
Yeah, go for it.
Yes.
Okay. Starting with, we've got to start with his lordship because he loves this. The Other Half, Craig.
I love it.
My podcast, Other Half.
I love it. No, it's a great opener, and it's just if I'm only going to play a couple of songs on the album, if I'm going to do something like that, there's this and the title track are my 2 really favorite tracks on the album.
Okay,
love it live.
Yeah, it's a great live song, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, H really gets into it. I mean, it's written about Lynetta, isn't it? So
I think so. Yeah.
So he really sings it from the heart, and the lyrics are great. I mean, there's some great moments in it as well. You know, there's dotted throughout the album. Actually, there's a few Beatlesque kind of moments. And there's one in this. There's like a woo kind of backing vocal thing where feathers and all that kind of stuff, and that sounds really Beatley. And the little piano section as well that Mark does is really quite nice. But yeah, I mean, it's just the start of, like you were saying, the songs don't really sort of come out until you actually see them live, and this is definitely one of them, I think. Yeah. But it's a great opening track, isn't it? It's really, it's quite boisterous, isn't it? It's, if you were listening to this straight after Marbles and expecting another fantastic place to sort of crop up, and you sort of straight in with this, it's amazing. Yeah. It's a real shift change.
And it's not a heavy opener either, is it? It's not a depressing subject matter or anything, earth shattering.
There's no death or water.
No, it's essentially a love song.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah,
and I think it came out recently, hasn't it? Live. There's been a couple of times in the last couple of years where it's been sang live, and it's just one of them ones that when you hear it, hairs on the back of your neck. I love it.
It's got a bounce to it as well, hasn't it?
Yeah, I was going to say,
yeah. And I love it when H sort of throws up his pocket full of confetti into the air as well. That's really nice visual moment. That.
For me, it's a great opener, and I see Somewhere Else, and we'll talk a bit more probably when we get onto the other tracks. But it's a light and dark album because you've got, as you say, it's written about Lynetta. You've got the new relationship songs, and then you've got almost the hangover songs from Marbles in that period of his marriage breaking down previously. So for me, it's light and shade all the way through the album. But this one's really good opener.
For me, I think it's got a great kind of Roddery moment in it, and then that end section is like a real H moment. The I am the half you're what I'm for. That is such an H moment.
Yes,
and he lives it, and it's just as you say, live. It comes to life. It's a great song when they play it, and it's hard to argue with. It's classic Marillion.
It's classic H, isn't it? It's heart on his sleeve. His emotions are straight out there. That this is where he's at. This is what he's feeling.
Yeah.
I was not too impressed with it when I first heard it. I have to say, to be the voice of dissent.
Was it not miserable enough?
No. But as Nathan describes the ending there, that's where it comes to life for me. H really does throw himself into those lyrics at the end, and it is a great opener. And it's, as Tim says, it kind of sets the tone for what this album is going to be like. It kicks in straight away.
I think what doesn't help as well is having heard a dodgy copy where Mark Kelly goes, "This is Mark Kelly, yada yada yada." From memory, he talks over the guitar solo. It has been a few years since I've heard it, but from memory, he talks right over the guitar solo and kind of ruins that moment of the song just as it's building.
Okay, so that's the opener, the other half. On to track 2, the first single, See It Like a Baby.
It's a very different song for them. Thematically, I understand H knows how to look at the world through fresh eyes, and stuff like that. Musically, it's not anything exciting. I've grown to like it more over the years. I didn't like it at all when I first heard it.
I loved it the first moment I heard this. I thought it was different.
Yeah, I thought it was different,
and I love that.
I don't think I really got the lyrics straight away, even though I should have done. But the more that you appreciate it, and the more that just take a fresh look at life, take a fresh look at everything, see everything again with new eyes, as if you're a baby.
Yeah, it was my favorite T-shirt.
Oh, it was a great T-shirt. Great T-shirt.
With the spinning top on.
Yeah, the spinning top. Yeah.
What about the song then?
Not quite as well liked as the T-shirt.
Okay.
I agree to like it. I like bits of it. For me, thematically or musically, because of where it comes from, because a lot of the music's from the Marvel sessions, I see it as almost a parallel to Angelina, with that sort of late night, sort of bluesy, kitschy, sort of chilled music.
Right.
And then it sort of picks up again as he gets into the chorus, which they wrote during Somewhere Else. So, no, I think it's probably a song we don't hear enough live, because I think, again, for like we've already said, live these songs breathe.
Yeah.
And it'd be good to hear it live again.
I say it wasn't really played much on the tour, though.
No.
Nathan?
I've grown to like it. Again, having seen it live a couple of times, I think they played it on singles night back in.
I was going to say they play on singles night.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
go for them, yeah.
And so I've grown to kind of like it. I suppose with hindsight, for me, it kind of follows on the other half perfectly, because it's new relationship, seeing things in completely new ways. I think thematically there are some links there, but it's not the strongest thing on the album.
I think it's a bit slight. I think the verses, the music's very slight, and the chorus is great and fully formed, but the verses don't quite do it for me.
Pete's got a great bass line in it.
Yeah,
like a descending bass line. It's great. And Rother's guitar solo, listening to it earlier for the first time in a long time, had sort of elements of The Edge about it. There's one bit towards the end of the solo where it could have been off the Joshua Tree. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I really, and there's a part at the end where H is going ooh 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 with the vocals, and sort of in sync with Rother's guitar, and that's a really, really powerful motif that they've developed there, and that came across really well live when they played it. I remember editing the singles night version of it, and like, this is brilliant. You've got H doing it on one side of the stage, and Rother's replicating the melody line on his guitar. Great
I think
stuff.
it was a shame that they didn't push it properly as a single, and it just was a download one rather than giving it a bit more of a go, because it never really stood a chance without having a physical copy. Then, coulda, woulda, shoulda with whether the radio play would have actually happened with it being such a different type of tune.
But I think James is right. It would be nice to hear it wheeled out live again.
Yeah,
occasionally, wouldn't it?
Can any of you guys remember if they, because they did some kind of HMV shows and things, and I know they did some in Europe supporting the album. I think that was one of the ones they did acoustically. But
yes, Nottingham. Yeah,
and I think they did HMV Cambridge as well. And I know online there's a couple of shows in a couple of stores in Germany, and I think they did a couple in France. So I think they kind of didn't necessarily play it at the main shows, but kind of played it as a pre-show thing at in stores.
Okay.
I think they played it quite a lot at the start of the tour, and then seemed to then sort of get dropped as the tour went on.
Yeah, I mean, I know that they didn't do it in London for the somewhere in London that wasn't played at all on either of the nights there.
Played, like James says, it was played in the certainly in the first leg of the tour. They played it every night up to France, I think.
And it was done at the rack at rehearsal.
Were you there for that?
No, not that one.
Okay.
No.
All right. So on to track 3 and the second single from the album, or one of the sides of the second single. Thank You, Whoever You Are.
Fantastic.
Go on then, Mike. We'll start with you.
Just glorious. I love this. I've got this lovely memory. I've only got it on video on my iPod Classic, which I can't update because I can't remember my iTunes password. I've got a video of Rory singing it on the train. We were going up to Dublin, and he's got his headphones on, and he just sings it note perfect. And
brilliant.
That's the bit that always gets me. So doing the homework for this and listening to it was amazing. Again, fantastic live. It's just one of them timeless classic Marillion tracks.
It is. It kind of reminds you of something like Sugar Mice and Warm Wet Circles in respect of it's quite a traditional song in its structure and that. Lyrically, thematically, great. Good as a single. They did get the top 20, so can't complain.
And they done an edit of it. The single was an edit as well, wasn't
it? Yeah.
I think it's a really good song. It's got a lot of the sort of string side. There is a sort of Motown-y feel to it, which was, I think, why they originally called it Diana Ross, because it had that sort of, when the initial sort of piano idea and it grew from there, that sort of type of music was coming out. But no, I think it's a great song.
In some ways, for me, it's almost a callback to Marbles in terms of with the string arrangement, with it being quite piano led. For me, it's always seemed. I love the song, don't get me wrong, but it's always seemed slightly out of place because it feels more like a Marbles track in the respect of that there's layers to it rather than the kind of in your face of most of the rest of the album.
I'd agree with that, Nath. I mean, this song and the next song, which is a bit of a Marmite song, I think it's fair to say. I think they're probably the most conventional songs on the album in terms of structure. And for that reason, I think they stick out a little bit in the whole kind of track list of Somewhere Else. And I do like Thank You, Whoever You Are. I think the chorus is absolutely barn-stomping. It's brilliant. For me, it loses its way a little bit in the verses. I think there's one verse in particular that sort of meanders a little bit, but as an overall experience, it's great. And yeah, again, live, it's a lovely, lovely, lovely song to hear them play live.
Yeah, I think the verses are quite loose, aren't they? Whereas the chorus is quite full on, and the verses are quite loose. But
I remember hearing it being played on Radio 2 or the chart show when it charted, and I can't remember what the DJ said, but it wasn't very nice. I think it was something about Rod's guitar. Well, I think it was something specifically to do with Rod's guitar solo.
Okay.
Which surprised me. But...
Yeah, I think H just started to dig this out on his H Natural shows.
Yeah.
So potentially a bit like Lucky Man, it may start to
creep in
back into set lists and things.
Oh, the lyric was kicking around for years. I think H started using some of it back as the Radiation sessions.
Wow.
I think it's a great track. It could have come off Radiation for me. It's got a sort of, I don't know, not lo-fi because it doesn't sound lo-fi, but the simple arrangement of the song, it could have gone that far back for me. I think it was a good single. It probably would have been a better first single off the album than See It Like a Baby. But I agree with everything else you've said, guys. Okay, let's get on to it then. Track 4.
Do we have to?
Well, it's pretty much the shortest Marillion song, isn't it? That and Hooks in You are.
There's a lot of parallels to Hooks in this one.
I can understand why they did it as a double A side, trying to get a different kind of rocky kind of song to see if it could get played on one of the rock radio stations and that. It is what it is. Lyrically, it's fine. It's over in a couple of minutes,
I absolutely love it.
Thank you, Nathan. Voice of reason.
But 13-year-old me hearing it played live, it was 3 minutes of clapping along, them playing really loudly. They just rock out. They clearly enjoyed it at the time. Having spoken to a member of the band since who once said it'd be great apart from the lyric, the music, and everything that goes with it. It's fantastic, but I think it's great. It's just them enjoying themselves.
It's a good fun live track, isn't it? I mean, the two films of it that Tim's put out, the single video and also the Somewhere in London. Both versions are really good fun. The audience are having a great time. The band are having a laugh. It's a bit of light relief in amongst all the death and water, isn't it?
And also,
death and water any day.
So I'll never forget Cambridge gig, because it was before the DVD came out, and I think Tim had just done the edit of it. Lucy came up to us, laughing at us, pointing at us, going, "I've seen the edit, and there's you singing along to Most Toys at the front row. I caught you doing it."
The funny thing, actually, because songs like that, Hope for the Future stands out as well. Oh. So they played that 2007 convention, and I've just edited the documentary for this Strange Engine, and within the band there's like, I love it, I hate it kind of attitude towards it. But you watch the crowd during that performance of Hope for the Future in Port Zealand in 2007. Everybody's absolutely loving it.
Yeah, I did mention that on the podcast as well.
Yeah. I think that's it. It's a good fun song, isn't it? You know,
I like it. Yeah, I like it. I think, as I say, it's where it's juxtaposed on the album just before the title track is a quick, bouncy, up and in your face rocker, and then there's the drop.
Yeah, and the drop kind of lasts for the next 3 or 4 songs, doesn't it? It changes the mood of the album completely at that point. Yeah, I think it's great. I know not everybody does, but there you go. It's out there.
Again, it's great live. As we
say, say it, Tim. Say it, Tim.
I don't know. I mean, I love it live, but listening to it again from the album today, I was like, I'm not sure.
I listened to the album and I watched the DVD last night, and they're poles apart, completely poles apart.
There's only one song I'd skip on here, and it isn't this.
Oh, I know which one you're skipping.
And we haven't got to it yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Anywho, on to the title track.
Genius.
Genius.
Double genius.
Exquisite. Absolutely exquisite.
Beautiful.
This is actually one of my all-time favourite Marillion songs.
Yeah.
I like the structure of it. Lyrically, it's fantastic. Musically, it's epic. It's just it ticks all the boxes for me out. If I was going to say it to somebody, if you could say, what would you say is a song that exemplifies what Marillion is? This is one of them that you can go, that.
Yeah.
You get it. If you play Somewhere Else to somebody, that is a condensed version of what Marillion is and what they do, in my humble.
Nobody's disagreeing with you, Craig.
No, we're nodding our heads.
Can I not try to be controversial then?
I prefer Most Toys. I don't. I'm just saying it.
It's a really emotional song, though, as well. It gets you every time. I don't think there's a time I've seen this played live where the tears haven't gone. Honestly, it's just one of them ones that gets me every time.
It's like Estonia in that way, isn't it? We can all relate to certain aspects of the lyric.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And it's the longest song on the album.
And that's only, 7.5-ish minutes?
7:51, yeah.
That's practically a single remix.
Yeah. it's where it changes, it's where it picks up. Is where he said where everyone else is, everyone I love is somewhere else, and that song just flies.
Yeah.
And not just that, but also live, it seems to have been taken to another level by Jens. So certainly on the An Hour Before It's Dark tour, when they got to Woke Up in a Spaceship of Shimmering Gold, and he was shining the kind of yellow gold lights onto the disco ball, and the whole room was just literally shimmering. It just takes it to another level.
I think it also scans as well to say I woke up in Mark's bedroom.
Yeah.
That's my new lyric there.
You have to explain that, because not everybody will know what you're talking about.
H explains it far better than I can.
Mike woke up in Mark's bedroom. Is that what we're saying?
I've never woken up in Mark's bedroom.
You've been in a taxi with him, though?
A bit, yeah, and you were ringing me, you sod.
I was, yeah, but I didn't know. Anyway,
we'll get to that
for another time.
That's for another podcast.
Nathan's touched on something there about how visual Marillion's music is.
Yeah.
It's not like a 3-minute pop song where it just sort of flows by and you can forget about it. All the lyrics and all the musical nuances sort of conjure up a real kind of visual texture. And Jens is the past master at sort of painting that light on the stage, and when H picks up the megaphone to do that middle section, it's all a great story that you can look at as well as listen to. It's brilliant.
Yeah, because you can, when you close your eyes and you've got the image, but when Jens lights that room up, whether it's PZ, whether it's the short version, the wide version, a small theatre or a big theatre, it just totally takes on a whole new meaning. The whole thing, you need that part of it. You can't have it without it.
And I think it's one of H's strongest lyrics, isn't it? It's that sort of, well, the line, as you've said, everyone I love lives somewhere else, just rips straight into you. It's fantastic.
See, you got me again.
I know. Apologies.
And when you and the great thing about it is it's one of those lyrics that applies in so many different situations. And when you kind of read H's reasoning behind it, there's a lot of thought into that. But just you can't argue with it. It is classic H lyric.
Yeah. Do you think Mark ever thinks about how they decorated that bedroom influencing this lyric?
He went back and redecorated. I thought what was interesting watching, I know we're not doing the live version yet somewhere in London, but I love where the camera angles come onto Mark playing, and watching Mark playing this as well is beautiful. There's some real beautiful moments in there where I think it's Henk, isn't it? On with Mark and Ian, I think. But there's some lovely angles.
Sometimes it's like Sky Above the Rain as well, where there's piano and voice.
Yeah.
And you can get that two shot of Mark and H performing together. It's really powerful.
It is, yeah.
And there's such a great combination musically.
Okay, I think we've done Somewhere Else. Track 6 is A Voice from the Past.
Otherwise known as Make Poverty History. That was a lot of his inspiration for that song at the time, where the whole Make Poverty History movement with the UK. Was it we had the presidency of the G7 at the time, and everything was going on. There was a G8 at the time.
It's quite Beatles-esque as well.
Yeah. It's Lennon. For me, it's very Lennon.
Yeah.
Yeah, even sort of imagined sort of type Lennon.
Yeah.
It's got that piano and voice thing again going on, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And there's an intensity to the song as well, because when H performs it live, he really feels it.
Yeah.
You can tell all the way through.
I think this is one of the songs, as you were saying, Tim, that doesn't kind of work as well on the album for me as it does live. There's a marked difference in this song. And it's, as you rightly say, it's the way H throws himself into the lyric, I think.
It's that end section again, isn't it? It's like Somewhere Else. It's like a build-up of intensity, and it almost becomes like not a rant, but a real kind of outpouring of emotion towards the end of the song. Yeah. I mean, for me, these 4 songs, Somewhere Else, Voice from the Past, No Such Thing in the Wound, they're amongst the 4 strongest songs in sequence on any Marillion album. I just love the build-up, the vibe, the lyric, the musicality. It all just flows really, really nicely together for me.
It does, and then what happens? We'll come on to that. In a minute.
But it is a semi-political song. We've they do crop up quite frequently, and anytime people have complained, we've spoke to Lucy about this. Anybody complains and says that Marillion art shouldn't be a political one. I mean, this is environment stuff, and
it's about humanity, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's about people unfortunate enough to be caught up in something that's not their fault.
Yeah,
they're just living in a place where bad stuff's happening. We're seeing it at the moment, aren't we?
Yeah, exactly. It's as relevant, if not more, today than it was back then.
Well, it's got echoes to An Hour Before It's Dark, isn't it? Because that's similar lyrical content in the latest album.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
And you're right, when that outpouring of emotion, Tim said, it almost says it without, he almost sings it with anger. You can see, he's put his heart and soul into this. This is personal.
Yes, very much so.
I think it's a frustration, isn't it? You feel so much about these poor people that are in these situations, and you want to do something about it, and you want people to do something about it, but nothing happens. And what can we do as individuals? We can lend our voice to something, but individually, we don't have the power to change anybody's outcomes, especially if they're on the other side of the planet. And I think that's where all that kind of anger and frustration comes from. At the end of this song.
And also the worst part of the timing is just after this, and just as the album came out, they were getting movement on the Make Poverty History thing. Then the financial crash happened.
Yeah.
And
so it was all just suddenly non-existent and pushed to one side because everybody's mortgages and every banks were crashing, everything was, and it just timing.
And I think some of the lyrical content he talks about, so he talks about dirty water, HIV, things like that. It's almost that thing of, as Tim's kind of picked up on, we can see these problems, we can see them on our TVs, we can see them on our phones, and I think that's something that Ages then come back to. I think this is the start of almost what we reached at Fear, where I think the lyrics and everything everywhere, and it's all on our phones now. We can see it, but we are almost powerless to do anything about it.
Yeah, needs to be put back in the set.
Yeah. Okay, really strong song. Okay, track 7, No Such Thing.
Like it.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. It's really different for him. It's really good.
Bass man a guitar loop.
Yes, yeah. Nice ringtone. I think you'll find No Such Thing is. Lots of you are old enough to remember ringtones.
You change the lyrics to No One's Here.
It's such a delicate song, isn't it? Compared to something like Most Toys, it's a complete contrast.
Yes. Yeah.
I think for me it almost sounds like something off Radiation with kind of the vocal effects, and it's relatively, maybe experimental is not the right word, but it's outside of their comfort zone.
Yeah.
And I think for me it almost harkens back to we're trying something different and we're just going to go with it. And I think what's quite interesting is, again, live, I think they dug it out in 2019, potentially only kind of Port Zealand and Poland. I think it made it to those sets. But again, it come across really well. And it's captured excellently by Tim on Distant Lights.
Oh, you've done your homework.
Nice plug.
Is that on the space by any chance, Tim?
I think it might be, Mike. Yes, I think it might be. At a very reasonable monthly subscription rate.
But you're right. It sits well that you're saying about the four songs in that canon. And I agree with you. It is one of the strongest suite of songs that the band have put out. But it brings almost a bit of light where you've got Somewhere Else is a heavy song. You've got Voice from the Past, quite a heavy song. No Such Thing, although the lyrics
aren't exactly like this.
Exactly light. But musically, it's sort of a bit of a light, almost not relief is the wrong word, but a sort of a light, and then you delve into the wound.
Kind of a palate cleanser for the wound, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, on to the wound then.
Love it.
Song, love it.
Love it.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
Song of two halves, though, isn't it?
It rocks out at the beginning and then changes. Yeah.
This is the jumpy one.
Great live song.
Yeah, I was listening to FRC 40 earlier in preparation for this, and the wound came on, and I was shocked to hear everybody kind of clapping to it, considering it's thematically, lyrically quite a dark song to me.
Yeah.
Again, going back to that kind of Radiation thing, if No Such Thing is almost a Radiation throwback musically, I think this lyrically sits well with something like Now She'll Never Know, in terms of how open and honest kind of H is being about what's gone on in his life.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely rocky, and it again on the recordings we've got on the live DVDs, it comes across really well, and I'm quite surprised it's not been played more, considering how not upbeat it is, but rocky.
I think some of these songs suffer from the fact that this album and Happiness is the Road were so close to each other, and you've got essentially 3 albums worth of material, 3 CDs worth of material out in the space of like under 2 years. So there was a lot. I think a lot came out then. So I think that's made a difference to some of the set lists. How the songs from this album and from Happiness is the Road, that haven't been played as much. Apart from something like Somewhere Else, which has been in the set list a lot more.
And
Not so much of this is transposed over.
I think potentially as well, looking at kind of like setlist.fm, you'd also got kind of the stuff off Marbles that maybe wasn't played on the tour. So like Ocean Cloud was played
on this tour,
10 or so times, and I think the Damage was played at most dates. So it's kind of the stuff that maybe didn't make it to the Marbles tour was also a hangover onto some of the Somewhere Else dates.
Yeah.
It was also sometimes with the band is they'll play a song on the tour that follows the album release, but don't quite gel with the song live. They can't quite work it out, and it usually takes a couple of tours to sort it all out and get it right how they want it. And they didn't. I don't think that, although it was really good live, and I think again is another song I'd love to hear live again. They didn't persevere enough with it to really get it. I think as good as they potentially could.
I think The Wound for me is up there with Somewhere Else as the two standout tracks on this album. I think The Wound is a fantastic Marillion song.
Yeah, like I say, rocks out at the start, and then that end section is fantastic. It's really vibey,
dreamy,
atmospheric.
really dreamy,
very dreamy. Yeah.
I mean, when they every time they've done the lyric or jammed a piece of music with that lyric, it's always been quite heavy, quite dark. I think you've mentioned Mr. Taurus, the version on The Wound I've got on there, which from the Marble session, which I really, really do like. Again, was quite a heavy, dense, dark jam, and it just sits so well with those lyrics.
Yeah, I know we've kind of skipped away from it, but I do like Somewhere in Ibiza when I was playing Mr. Taurus. It's really good.
They do throw in some. Usually, it's Mark. He just goes through these banks of keyboards and come up with some odd noises and stuff. The band just go, "Hey, bit of brevity. Let's have muck about."
Yeah, that's right.
You're saying what Craig was saying about. There was like 3 albums worth of material came out really quite quickly. The Somewhere Else sessions were even that shorter period of time, and some of it was left over from Marbles, which was expansive. By the time in the end they got to they were picking the songs or recording the songs. There was 21 songs they could have chosen to record.
Yeah,
brilliant. A lot of material in a short period of time. A bit like Radiation.com sort of thing.
Which begs the question, why did they finish Last Century for Man? We'll talk about that now.
Go on, John, you can start with this one.
I'm not starting with this one. Somebody else speak. I don't like this track.
You don't like this one, John, do you?
No.
I mean,
do you want to tell us why?
It's quite lazy. It's quite, nothing happens. If you compare it to other tracks on the album, it just doesn't go anywhere. No, it's never been a favourite of mine, and it's the only track I would take off this album.
So if you changed the lyrics to God Bless Yorkshire, would it make a difference to you instead of God Bless America?
You remember when Pete did that song about Middlesbrough at the convention? You could put that lyric to this song.
Oh dear, okay.
Sorry, anybody else like it?
I quite like it. But I think it's more to do with memories than it is the actual song itself. It's like Mike was talking about. Thank you, whoever you are. It's one of the first songs that I came across from this album when we were filming it, and for that reason, it's kind of embedded in my head as being a nice memory of that time of my life.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like it for that reason.
Okay.
Lyrically, I don't mind it. I think it's again a political song. Has his rant about the people's consumers' obsession and about the environment and everything. It's a classic H rant, I would say. And musically, it's okay. I would skip it if I wasn't in the mood for it. It's not something it's not an essential played song for me.
If they played this and Born to Run at the convention back to back, I'd have time to go back to the chalet.
And have a curry.
Yeah.
It has its moments. It's probably, for me, it's the song I like the least from the album. It has its moments, and again, as you're saying, the lyric sort of again has echoes, or you could see where potentially fear was coming.
Yeah,
because you have those themes already beginning to appear.
I think lyrically he doesn't say anything he hasn't said better
before.
Yeah.
That's what I meant to say, Nate. Yeah.
Apart from missing out Yorkshire.
Let's move on. Track 10, Faith.
Beatles. Like it. Really like it.
Yeah.
You like this version?
I prefer the earlier version, where it was just the acoustic version, and I would have been happy with that. Where they added all the extra stuff to the end, didn't need it.
I actually I really like the from Fire Dance in the Sky section. I think that's quite groovy. Again, I think it's something a little bit different for them. And interestingly, I was looking through the booklet for Somewhere Else earlier, and Sam Morris plays French horn on it.
He does, yes.
He does.
Oh, right. Well done. Yeah, very good.
Which surprised me they didn't kind of bring it out for the French from the orchestra tour, because he's on it. It's a perfect chance to kind of play it. And I think it's the song that took me the longest to see them play it live. I think I saw everything else fairly early on, and then I think that was something like 2017.
Okay.
Not plugging Mr. Taurus again, but if you listen to the hidden track on disc 2, you can actually hear Mr. Morris playing the horn.
Where is Mr. Taurus available at the minute?
It's on Bandcamp, I think.
Bandcamp, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the bonus track, I had all the stems, so I isolated all the orchestral part and just done the sort of, which I think is very Beatle-esque.
Yeah.
Because the acoustic side reminds me of Blackbird.
It's a nice uplifting way to round things off, really, isn't it? It's a bit in the heart of like Made Again, isn't it?
I was going to say it feels like Made Again.
Yeah. But I think in this case, it's executed a lot better than Made Again. It's got some lovely lyrics in it, hasn't it? Feel inside the atoms where the science breaks down.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
I think, as you said, Tim, it's a nice way to round off the album, bringing the mood back up. I kind of agree with Craig a little bit in that I liked the early version, the Before First Light version, a lot. So that arrangement kind of stuck with me. But there's nothing wrong with this.
No, nothing wrong with it.
Different enough again. Yeah, nice track.
But I think that early arrangement, John, stuck a bit like Neverland, because we had that on a disc, didn't we? It was one of the Christmas discs. So we listened to that over and over and over and over again.
Yeah, it was on the single, wasn't it? It was on. Yeah, so it was released before the album, so everybody played it, and it was used to. That's what the version you heard.
Yeah, I still prefer that first version of Neverland.
Oh, there you go. Well, I know Craig's gonna not like this because we do have a mini pod side offshoot called Charting the Single.
Oh, we can talk about the B-sides. It's fine, don't worry about it.
We're going to talk about the two B-sides.
We'll not get to do the B-sides, the single of this for at least another year or so. So don't worry about that. So,
in no particular order, Circular Ride.
Cork and Tune should have been on the album.
Yeah,
love it.
Although
I love it.
Although it does feature H's worst line ever written, which is the "Oh, please say to me I'll survive like Gloria Gaynor."
Even worse than shopping for shoes?
Oh, whatever.
Yes, worse than shopping for shoes. Yes, worse than shopping for shoes.
It's got a great chorus. It's got a great chorus.
I'm quite surprised that it never got stuck on any of the reissues so far, like the Madfish versions or anything like that, since it was only ever on the singles. I thought they might have bunged them on as extras, but it's something to look forward to the deluxe versions when they get round to them.
It's got an accordion on it as well. It's worth noting.
Yes,
big fan
I
of
can't
the.
think of another Marillion song with an accordion on, unless you know different.
I know one.
Go on.
Don't hurt yourself.
Don't hurt yourself. Yep, that's got one on.
Okay, well, there you go.
There you go.
All right.
You put us on the spot there. Had to try and switch the Wikipedia on.
Yeah, switch it over to a different album.
I switch it over.
Circular Ride was kicking around for a while. They had that chorus and that vocal melody from Anorak,
right?
And they're just trying to then find the rest of the song to go with it, and it took them a while.
Yeah. Anything else on Circular Ride before we finish with Lucy's favourite song?
I've heard it live.
Well, I've heard it live, yeah, in Manchester.
A few people that has.
Yeah.
Was that in Manchester Academy?
It was Manchester Academy, yes.
And that's the only time, isn't it?
No, I played it 2-3 times, I think, around that time. But
the first 4 gigs on the Nowhere Else tour. Then
Nowhere Else, yeah. Needs to come back out.
Say the word.
No, say the what? Sorry.
Say the fucking words.
Song is called "Say the Word."
No, it's not. What's it called?
No.
Say the fear word.
Yeah.
John would swear on the pod. He's a good boy.
I will swear when we talk about fear. I'll swear. Yeah. You're lucky I didn't swear for Last Century for Man, but there you go.
You restrained yourself.
I like Say the Word. I know it's not a popular song.
I don't mind it.
Better than Circular Ride for me.
It's all right.
It's better than most toys.
Oh, no, steady now. Steady.
Do you want to hear a stato?
Come on then.
Go on.
I think, and somebody might prove me wrong, that it's contains the lyric that has been around the longest before being used.
Was it pre-Grendel?
Not far off.
Whoa.
Because it
Helen the Hunter.
Yeah, the part of the lyric where he's talking about the people in the square today pushing by,
Yeah.
never meet face to face.
Yeah.
That dates back to a song called Promises, which was being written for the Europeans' proposed third album.
Wow.
Whoa.
Oh,
There you
blimey.
go.
And that's why you're here, James. For that sort of information.
That's out-nerded my one from Fugazi from Sassing. That's You've got the crown, James.
Yeah, it was called "We Don't Want to Be Lovers," and it was a lyric that H has tried to use pretty much every Marillion album session, writing session since, but then got used. I think it was part of a song called "The Square" on Marbles, and then got amalgamated into this.
Right.
That's brilliant.
It is a shame that, as Craig says, they've not been tacked on to any sort of reissue until now, but there's always time.
There's always time.
It'll be interesting to see when they do get round to it, because it will be reissued. Maybe in a few years' time, it'll definitely be reissued and deluxed. And it'll be interesting if they do a boots up remix or remaster of it, because I know poor Mike Hunter put up with a lot of crap when this album came out, and he took it to heart when people didn't like the mix of it and the sound of it. But it was an artistic choice. It was what they wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's Nathan said,
in the room.
because there was no pre-order. It came after Marbles. If they'd have done Happiness is the Road after Marbles and then done Somewhere Else, would it have got the same flack it did?
I don't have an issue with the production on it. It's just
I don't.
different. It's just different. It's a more live sound, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as we've discussed, there's a load of songs on there that are just top notch and fit really well into any live Marillion set.
Yeah.
Do you want a few more stats?
Yeah,
Go
come
for
on.
it.
Tim.
In amongst my twiddling my thumbs with my renders today, I thought I'll rank all of H's songs on Spotify listens just to see where Somewhere Else stuff comes. And I mean, I might be wrong here, but I think I got 138 songs from Season's End onwards that appeared on albums. And the highest ranking song from Somewhere Else is at number 90.
Ooh.
So there's a lot of Marillion catalogue above that is more popular. And
What is the highest ranking song? Tim?
what do you think is the highest ranking
The title
song?
track.
It is indeed, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the next highest is A Voice from the Past.
Wow.
150.
Okay.
But it also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It contains 7 of the bottom 12 most popular Marillion songs on Spotify. So that just goes to show, doesn't it? It's an album that people don't really gravitate back to, especially on, well, if Spotify's anything to go by.
I must admit, it's not an album I pull out the rack very often. I've had to dust it off to play it, in researching this. I'll pick tracks from it, but
Yeah, I'm the same. I picked tracks for it, but especially the title track and, like I said, the other half.
I played the
I played
live
them live.
version a bit more than I would the studio album.
well, that's the thing, which we will talk about in a separate pod. But the Somewhere in London and the Somewhere in London soundtrack are both fantastic.
They are.
That's my go-to version of the album.
Yeah, mine
Is it?
too.
And I mean, there's after the dual case version, which was the only original version, the Madfish reissue, which was like 2011, which was in a nice hardback book with more pictures in, and it's almost like a mini deluxe version.
Yeah.
There's no different mix or anything like that in it.
It's
but
a digibook.
a digibook.
It's a digibook, yes.
And do you want now, before we go, to do your favourite slot?
Hey, there's 2 other sections yet, mate. There's a surround section to talk about.
Oh yeah, yes, because that's on the DVD, isn't it?
But we talk about it here because it's
we'll do it in this one. Go for it.
It's only 4 tracks, and this surround mix appears on Somewhere in London deluxe DVD, so it's on the 2-disc version. So if you buy the current Madfish version with the 2 live CDs, it's only got 1 DVD, and so you won't get these surround mixes I'm about to talk about. But the first thing to say is it's not in 5.1, it's in 4.1.
Even though it says 5.1.
It's not in 5.1. The center speaker isn't used at all, which is weird.
So if you've got the DVD, get your Sharpie out, change the 5 to a 4.
I might be wrong about this, and Mike, please correct me if I am wrong, but I remember Mike saying at the time that if you're at a gig, you don't hear the center speaker because the center speaker's the bloke on stage singing into a microphone. It's all coming out of the PA.
Yeah.
Which, again, I apologize if I'm wrong, but that was his reasoning behind not putting the center speaker in there.
Well, I mean, I have no issue with the production on the album. I'm going to be quite critical of these mixes because 2 of them are great and 2 of them aren't great. And it's for that reason. So the first track is Somewhere Else, and the vocals are in the front 2 speakers, but with instruments as well. So the vocals are far too low in the mix when the full band is there. When it's the sparse sections with just 1 or 2 instruments, it's fine. But when the full band kicks in, H is too quiet. And that, just knocking that level up a little bit would improve it massively. The Mr. Taurus vocal effects pan around all 4 speakers, which is a really nice touch. And Rother's chiming riff throughout the title track is really, really prominent. The backing vocals, To Look at Myself, appear in alternate rear speakers. They kind of jump around. And the vocals are much higher at the end section. Second track is No Such Thing, and it's got that lovely, lovely Rothers riff in the rear speakers with H's vocals in the front 2 speakers. And that's the best of the 4 mixes, because I think the song itself, kind of lends it to a more open mix. Voice from the Past is a third track. H's vocals are in all 4 speakers for the intro, and the gunshot in Beautiful Soul Gone, Gone, Gone appears in the right back speaker. And then the last track is The Wound, where we're back to the issues that we had on Somewhere Else. So the vocals are in the fronts, but they're too low again because it's a really nice mix. And there's some riffs of Rothers that I don't really think stand out too much in the stereo mix. They're kind of buried away. We can hear them much clearer in this surround mix. But the other thing to say is you can't play all 4 tracks in one go. You have to pick them individually off the menu of the DVD. But I know all of that is a bit churlish because it's bonus on the DVD. But
it goes in the opposite order on the DVD. It's The Wound, Voice from the Past, No Such Thing, Somewhere Else.
On the menu, they appear in the order I've just told you. In the back of the box, they're in the order you've told me.
Yeah.
But when you go onto the menu for the disc, they appear in
the other way.
Yeah.
Was that Mike's first F4 or 5.1 mix of any movie?
I think it was, yeah.
And they did, and from memory, they didn't do anything else for a couple of years, from memory.
No.
So I'm guessing with the remaster, there'll be a full 5.1 mix.
I would hope so. And there are some really nice things in those mixes, which if they replicate those and then bring the vocals up, that would be brilliant.
But, and also technology's moved on in the years since this is done, and by the time they get round to doing this one.
Yeah. So that only leaves
your favourite slot.
My favourite slot, just for the record.
Get your vinyl on.
I'll get my vinyl on. Yeah.
Get your gimp mask in.
So I don't know. Did it? It didn't come out on vinyl initially, did it? Madfish.
No.
The first imprint of it. It's, as you'd expect, double 180 vinyl. The album itself is over 3 sides, and you've then got 3 live tracks from Somewhere in London on side 4. The other half, Somewhere Else, and A Voice from the Past. But they've all got these really nice colour printed inner sleeves with the lyrics. Highly, highly recommended. I don't believe it's come out on coloured vinyl, but unless, of course, you know different. But definitely one for the collection. Get it while you can, before the remix.
Yeah, I mean the artwork for the album's quite cool. You know, it follows Carl Glover. It follows the themes, and it's the next progression on from the Marbles artwork.
It's quite a striking image, isn't it?
It is a striking image.
Made a nice T-shirt.
Did got lots of them ones.
Yeah.
And interestingly, if you're a bit of a nerd, the artwork used on Blackfield 3 is, I believe,
the unused,
somewhere else.
Yeah, the unused version of the album cover. Yeah,
because I was at a festival that Murillo's were playing, and I got my Blackfield T-shirt on, and Pete Jarvis walked up to me and went, "I know that image. Why do I know it?" And I had to go, "I think you rejected it."
Yeah. Well, there you go.
I really like the red T-shirt they did with the planes on it.
Yeah.
There were quite a few good off Marbles and this album. There were quite a few different T-shirt designs, weren't there?
There was also at the 2007 convention, just going back to the 14 idea, there was a T-shirt that literally said Marillion 14. So there was still some kind of overhang in terms of the artwork carrying over.
Yeah. So yes, thank you for listening to us ramble on about Somewhere Else.
Do we want to do a quick Genius or Bollocks?
Would what, track by track or all of it?
Oh, just do all of it. Genius. There you go.
Tim?
Yeah, Genius. That's
Mike?
Yeah, Genius.
James?
Genius.
Nath?
Genius.
Genius. It's a Marillion album and it's got some corkers on it. What else can you say? On that bombshell, thank you very much for listening. It's good night from Nathan.
Good night.
James.
Good night.
Mike.
Good night.
Tim.
Good night.
Faye.
Good night.
And John Boy. Take care.
And stay alive.
You're alive.
Yay.
Don't forget all the good stuff.
Thanks for listening to Planet Marzipan Podcast. Please like and subscribe from whichever platform you get your podcasts from. You can contact us at planetmarzipanpodcast@gmail.com and check out marillion.com, fishmusic.scot or fishmusic.eu for all the good